Hello and welcome back to the podcast. On this episode, I've got a fellow friend and passionate educator and visionary with me, Dylan Lim. Dylan, you want to say hi?
Hi, hello everyone.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to introduce Dylan to you and let him share with you a little bit more about his dream. He graduated, so Dylan graduated from NBS. He's the same age as me, right? I believe we graduated last year. And this year or last year?
This year, just
Oh,
this
this
year.
year. Okay. Mine was last year. He graduated this year, very recent. He's a COVID graduate. He specialized in banking and finance and got a first class honors. It's first class honors, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
first
Okay.
class.
Pardon me. I'm so out of touch. First class honors, which basically means that he's one of the best in his school. Okay, and despite that, he could have got a lucrative career in banking and finance, but he decided to pursue his passion in teaching, in giving tuition. And it's not just your tuition teacher that just gives equations and then just goes home. He has a little vision beyond that. You look at his Instagram page, it's filled with passion in the way he creates his content, so much value. And he has a vision eventually to set up a center where students can really learn and be holistically developed, not just their grades, but also their character. Okay, so I'm going to let Dylan just share a little bit about your dream because I know I probably didn't do justice.
Okay, thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Kevin.
Yeah.
So currently I'm working on this center, okay, or I will call it a school, okay, which is called Paradigm. So the vision of Paradigm is I want to equip all youths to have the capabilities and the confidence to design their dream life. So that upon graduation, right, they have the freedom of choice. Okay, if they want to step foot into the corporate world, right, they want to be a lawyer, they want to be a doctor, they want to be an engineer, yes, okay, go ahead. Alternatively, if they want to start their own business, okay, they have a passion project, they want to, right, make it bigger, okay, they have the confidence and capabilities to do it. It is, at the end of the day, it is the freedom to decide, right, which path will make you happiest. Okay, and that's why I want all youths, right, to be in that position when they graduate.
Sure. That's a very succinct way of putting it. Definitely dive deeper into it. I learned the term deep dive from you actually. And he's someone that's really a thinker. Dylan is really a thinker. He distills and synthesizes thought so that he can allow students to really appreciate certain frameworks and improve their thought processes. And the fact that he chose paradigm, right? The word paradigm, if I were to explain to viewers what it means, right? A paradigm essentially means a way of thinking, a mode of thinking.
Exactly.
Right? And to shift thinking is what we need in our culture. For sure, with regards to education, I know one of your passions is to transform education, redefine how we view education.
Exactly.
So, yes, I'm looking forward. Outline of the podcast today will be very special, especially for students, parents of students, and educators as well. If you don't fit into this category, it's fine. You'll still pick up some stuff for sure. But especially if you're a student, right, we are going to talk about common issues that students face, how to tackle them, tips to tackle them, some insights to tackle them as well. Okay, so it's going to be quite focused, today's podcast. Of course, before that, I also want to hear from Dylan's story a little bit. Okay, so you all know more about him and his passion. Okay, good. So before we go into common issues, Dylan, I just want to ask you about your time in school. What was the thing you enjoyed most in education, and what do you dislike most?
Okay, that's a good start.
Right.
So since I was a child, right, I actually love learning and love going to school.
Right.
I if you look at my characteristic test, right, my love of learning is actually at the highest.
Wow.
Okay, so I always look forward to learning new things, but the downside is that I was always constrained in terms of like the knowledge that I learned in school. So for instance, let's talk about secondary school, right? I was always intrigued about chemistry, right? Creating, right, different chemicals. But in school, right, the syllabus is just limits like what I can learn. So every time, right, like I was just like disappointed, right? Because I'm just in that capacity, like I wasn't exposed to what I truly want to learn. So one point that I would love to share is this, which is that as I was a child, I was always seeking for more knowledge. But yeah, I was just wasn't exposed to the knowledge that was taught. Like I wasn't exposed, and at the same time, right, I was just a child, right? I wouldn't actively seek out, right,
Yeah.
knowledge, and like I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that. So like I was just mother father, just like follow through
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
system, and then eventually, yeah, just accepting whatever is taught,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that is the reason why it's part of what I plan to do with Paradigm.
Sure. So you enjoyed learning, like in general, you just have this thirst for learning. Um, and do you know where it stemmed from? Was it particular you pick up Nat Geo book or you watch a show, or it's just ingrained in you that hey, I really enjoy understanding things beyond my textbook?
I think the word is curiosity.
Mm,
So I'm always a curious person, like what is the world out there, right?
okay.
I'm always asking about different questions, like I want to learn more and I'm hunger for more. So yeah, that is just me.
Okay. And so how did so I think moving forward, right, how did your passion in teaching actually start to develop? Because I know you
Mm,
did a degree in banking and finance, but when do you start teaching and when do you discover that hey, actually I really enjoy doing this?
okay. So after army, right, I began just to take some freelance part-time tutoring. So like, I
Okay,
think many of us, right, or many of the audience, some of you all have been part-time tutoring, and
sure.
that is actually the start of everything, right? Because that planted a seed in me. So I was very fortunate in the sense that during the midst of my tutoring process, right, I have actually helped a lot of students found passion, found joy in learning, and eventually their grades improved as well.
Mhm.
So there was one student that I always mention whenever I share about my tutoring background is that he was a private candidate and
Okay,
he had to retake his O levels.
okay.
So at that point of time, it's really like he has no choice but to succeed because if he screws up, even IT doesn't want him. So
Mhm.
he has to go in army straight. So that is, I hold that kind of responsibility on my shoulder.
Sure.
And I really fought very, very hard that year to make sure that he did well. And eventually he stepped foot into his desired course. So that
Okay.
actually planted a seed in my head. But alongside, because I was too ingrained in the university track. So being a banking and finance student, right, in that environment,
Yeah.
like every one of us is just eyeing for investment banking, private
Right.
banking, management consulting. So I do have that tiny passion at the side,
Mm.
but right, my focus was still going to the professional career, going in the corporate world because I
Mm.
just want to be, going for
Yeah.
that recognition, going for that high paying job. So
Sure.
that was me up until I had an internship in a global bank. So I
Okay.
went in and then I met different colleagues, and that was actually the shift. So to
Right.
be honest with you, I love what I'm doing in terms of the corporate life. Like I love because I love knowledge. I love to learn things. I love to learn about the latest, financial products out there.
Yeah.
But something was deep missing in my heart, which is that kind of fulfillment that
Right.
that I obtain whenever I teach. So that's one of it that's lacking. The
Mm.
second element is whenever I speak to the colleagues, right? I realized that because I always ask this question, like, so what are you striving hard for? What is your passion, right? When do you want to retire? And I realized that many of them, like, okay, this is a funny thing is that many bankers, right, they earn tons and tons of money, right?
Mm.
They earn like 500,000 a year. But if I ask them, like, why are you not retiring? Their common response is that, oh, I have to, right, pay for my mortgage. I have like obligations and
Mm.
etc. But if you dig further, right, you realize that all these people are living in like penthouses in
Mm.
towns at Orchard Road. So
Sure.
that was like there's a lot of question mark. Like I was
Right.
thinking, if you just settled for something like comfortable,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, you could have long retired and pursue whatever you
For
love.
sure.
Why did you dug that hole for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, because of all this, eventually I had a period whereby I was just soul searching, and I decided that okay, why not just pursue my passion,
Okay.
and straight dive into the education space.
Sure. So, and how has that been for you so far? During this period where it's not easy, also because during COVID, tuition is being affected, at least centers wise, lah, right? But how have you
Mm.
been affected? And how have you adapted during this period?
So I would say that fortunately, right, but COVID, this period actually helped me tremendously because especially when all the students, right, they are working at home right now, it's easier for me to reach out and say, let's have a Zoom call, let's have a quick session.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, right, it is difficult to get a student to hop on a Zoom call. No
Yeah.
one will say, no one accepts that online lessons or online coaching is a norm up till COVID came. So I was fortunate in the sense that when COVID came, I had an opportunity to mentor like 30 to 40 students
Sure.
online. And I think that has helped me tremendously this period.
Right. And I'm sure you're a very adaptable individual, from the way you speak and from the check out Dylan's content on Instagram, all right? It's just so much effort being put into the carousel. It's like a publication on its own. So you can see the passion radiate from his page. So definitely we want to pick his brain soon. I think just summarizing this this section, right? I just want to let viewers know also that what you see on the surface is not exactly what it seems. Because sometimes we see the glitz, the glamour, the status and everything, but beneath it actually there's a lot of things that you don't see. I think one example you brought up there was that it's not just how much you earn, right? It's how much debt you have and how much expenses you have. That's just a separate lesson, I guess, for another podcast. But idea is that you just gotta be authentic in the choices that you make, and we are gonna talk about that today, being clear and authentic in the choices that you make, and not just for the sake of because it's glamorous. So with that, let's go to straight into our content today. What are some most common issues you notice, right, in your students and from their friends as well?
I think the most common problem that every student, and in fact, I think both of us face was purpose of studying, right? We don't know why we are studying. We don't know what we are studying for. And that is the most dangerous pitfall when you don't know what you're doing and you just go through the flow, follow the motion. Because with that one problem, it leads to a whole lot of problem from procrastination, distraction, right? Study inefficiency. There's so much pains and struggles, right? And the root cause is just you don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
You don't know why you're studying, right? And that is a major problem.
Okay. No, I fully agree with you, Dylan. Actually, purpose and why, right? It's not just in students, but when you start working, some people don't know why they do what they do. But it starts actually at the school level because we're not conditioned to think, right? We're not conditioned to really question why we do what we do. And so this is something that we want to touch on. Maybe let's talk about this first, since it is the most common thing, right? Why do you think this happens?
Why? Okay, I think majority, right, is the societal conditioning, parenting conditioning, whereby even when I was a kid, right, the focus was always on grades. So our parents or my parents are always emphasizing on, okay, you have to get good grades, you have to get excellent grades, right? If I get 80, why not 85, why not 90? So it's that pursuit of like that perfection, like we have, that's why we want to chase after the grades. And you mentioned something very important that I wish to highlight is that if you just go through the motion, you realize that as you step foot into a corporate world, right, you don't ask what you're doing, you don't ask what's the purpose of pursuing something, right? It is the same as the story whereby in school you're just pursuing the grades, and when you step foot outside in the corporate world, you're pursuing for the money. Right? It's very one-sided, very narrow-minded, and that is what I want people to avoid. Because at the end of the day, true fulfillment and satisfaction doesn't come from all these external influences or external yardstick. It is all back to your purpose, your motivation.
Sure. I was talking to Dr. Chi as well in the previous podcast. I was asking him this question: how do you develop self-esteem or pride in yourself? And he said something that really I never thought about it before. He went even one step deeper and said that we got to redefine the way you view success. If you're so one track in the way you view success, right, then your self-image, your emotions, everything is based on that. You start to do comparisons and everything. And like what you mentioned, you're not clear of this is not really necessarily what you want to pursue. It's just what societal ideals are.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the solutions, right? How do you begin to help students to clarify their why?
So you realize that, right, up to the age of from 13 to 16, right, students nowadays, especially in this era, they are really exposed to a lot of things. The 16-year-old that are seeing right now and compared to our generation, right, is totally different because of social media. They are seeing tons and tons of social issues around. They are having different kinds of conversations. They are
Sure.
starting to think early about
Right.
what they truly want. So
Okay.
there is really a shift coming. And what I usually do during my session or when I speak to students, okay, I will start to ask, right, what are you interested in? What are you
Mm.
curious about? What problems do you want to solve in
Mm.
the society? So these are the few, right, starting questions
Sure.
just to poke them a little bit and figure out, right, is there any clues, right, from the answer? And then I will deep dive, right, from their responses. So I would say
Mm.
that these few questions are extremely important that every student should consider, right?
Mm.
What problems do you want to solve? What are you
Mm.
curious about? What do you spend time researching on?
Mm.
This really tells a lot of, right, answers to what you're
Right.
passionate about.
Okay. Exactly. I hope you guys are picking up some stuff because it is the ownership. Curiosity is something that we can inspire you, but it's ultimately your ownership to take charge. And like what Dylan mentioned with social media, right? There is a lot of avenues through which you can learn more about discovering a passion. So many different things, YouTube channels, whatever. Just read and understand more. Because when you expand your mind, right, that's where you start to develop different thoughts, different thinking. Um, Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong. You said what you're interested in and what problems do you want to solve? Right? What are you curious
What are
about?
you curious about? Yeah.
Right. Okay. So cool. Um, so beyond that, right? Let's say they're not really sure about what they're curious about or what problems. Then how then would you guide them along?
There are many, many ways. So
Mm,
if we go by, there's another way that's more logical, okay, for people that are more logical and not emotional, right? Go by elimination, right?
mm,
There's like 100 course, right, in diploma, right? You just go and cancel them and they will realize that they will filter to a few selection. From
mm,
there, right, you dig deeper. Why do you choose engineering?
mm,
What about engineering caught your attention?
mm,
Right? It is about the art of asking questions because back to what I've mentioned right earlier on, there is something, it's just they are unable to articulate it or it's
mm.
just in the subconscious mind. So
Sure.
my job is just to extract it out so
Mm,
that they can see it for themselves.
mm. Okay. And I would say that it's also a combination of nature and nurture, right? Which means that it's both their personality as well as the
Exactly.
experiences that they have experienced in the past. Like for both of us, we've experienced and we saw a problem and we find that we personally can feel that
Mm,
need, right? And this is the problem that we are actually talking about. Students lacking the why and going to school,
exactly.
dragging their feet to school. And for me, it was also born out of pain, right? I mean, if listeners know my stories, because I felt that pain of depression, and I want to solve that problem, and that's why I'm passionate about this particular area.
Exactly.
At the same
Exactly.
time, I also have a strength, or at least discovered a strength in speaking, which I improved along the way. Same thing for Dylan as well, right? I think maybe your personal example, right? How do you discover that you had this talent or this I would say strength in teaching and coaching, and how do you develop it?
So for me, right, actually it's really through exploration. So
Mm,
yes, I mentioned about I was tutoring when I was after NS for the past 4 to 5 years, but alongside I was doing tons and tons and tons of things, right? If you look
mm,
at my university record, right, I have like 3 different CCAs. I've
mm,
SI, I have different commitments. I'm in different clubs. I'm in,
sure.
I'm just immersed myself in right in the world out there so that right I can have a sense of right what do I like, what do I dislike, what do I like, what do I dislike, and from there
Mm,
right I will then deep dive or go deeper into the things that I truly love. So
mm,
right immediately I have been tutoring for the past 4 years and I didn't enjoy any weekends. So that
mm,
mentioned that is a clue, right? How am I able to invest my entire weekends to teach,
mm,
right? Wouldn't people always ask me, right? Weekends are supposed to be resting, but my
yeah,
reply was to them is always, oh, I find a lot of joy. And in
right, yeah.
fact, my energy sort of
Comes
like
from there, yeah.
like recovers
Right,
right
right,
when I'm teaching.
right.
Right.
Amazing.
I yeah, so that is some of the clues and that's how I
Mm,
figure myself along the way as
sure.
well.
Yeah, emotions leave clues. Emotions actually leave clues to what your desires are and what your passions actually are. When are you energized by it? What energizes, what excites you?
Mm,
And then on the contrary, right, when we are being suppressed, right, the emotion also gives you feedback. When you feel like,
exactly.
wow, you're really stressed or you just don't connect with something, right? It's just, it could be a feedback that you're forcing yourself to do it for the sake of doing it as well. Yeah, so So to summarize our discussion so far, right, be curious about things, go and explore by elimination. Or also take notice of your emotions. What excites you, what energizes you. And I guess that leads us to the next segment, which is on studying, right? Because students, yes, they can explore and everything, but they're still stuck in school. We got to
Yes.
accept the reality that they still got to do well in school. They cannot say that, okay, I'm going to be an astronaut and then quit school, right? So we have to negotiate that reality. So how do we help students to find their interest? Yes, but link it back to their studies.
Okay, great. So there's multiple responses to that. Let me talk about the first thing first, which is that
Mm,
in order to make your aspirations come true, right? Because from
mm,
the first step, you find your purpose and motivation, right?
yeah.
You realize that this kid that has a sense of purpose, right, they will do more often than not, they'll do better than those who are lost. Now, why?
Mm,
Because now the focus is no longer on grades.
mm,
Okay, the focus is for them to be able, right, to make their dreams come true, to step foot into the certain course,
mm,
and by product you realize that the grades will naturally improve. It's the
sure.
same thing like for myself. Like I wasn't focused on like the first class or the A's,
Mm,
right? I always focus on the big picture, and alongside I put in the dedication and hard work to right for my studies,
yeah,
and eventually that just boosted up. So it is the same for students out there,
sure.
right? Once you know the bigger picture, why you're studying, right, that is the most important
Right.
factor. Now, number two, right, it is okay. I saw this video by Tony Robbins. One of the second greatest problem that many students face is on procrastination.
Yeah.
Okay, and you realize that why are they suffering from procrastination, right? The main reason is okay, it is the association that they have towards studying. So let me ask you a question, Kevin. So if I would ask you, explain to me what the studying means to you, or describe to me what the studying means to you.
What does studying mean to me now,
Yeah,
right? The answer I
yeah,
give you 16 years old is different, but now the answer I give you, it's a form of I love it. It's a form of understanding, getting curious, learning, upgrading myself so that I can teach other people as well. To me, studying is not confined to a textbook. It's everything around me. Even talking to you now is a form of study. Yeah.
exactly. But if you were to ask, right, the same question to a 16 years old,
Yeah.
many of them would say, oh, torture,
Mm,
pain, struggles, right,
mm,
and discomfort. Okay, and you realize that, right, just one simple question you can distill, right, which category of these students is in. Okay, think
mm,
about it. If let's say I'm a student that tell you, oh, I hate studying, right, studying is a
mm.
torture, as
Yeah.
compared to another student and say that, oh, studying to me is a way out, it's
Sure.
opportunity for me to provide for my family.
Mm,
See the difference? The motivation is totally different. The focus is different.
mm.
So who will suffer from procrastination more? Student A or student B? Right?
Yeah.
Student
Mm.
A, who always views studying as like torture,
Association is bad.
boredom,
Yeah.
right? Association is bad. They will tend to suffer from procrastination. Not
Okay.
because they actively want to procrastinate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just that mental block
Yeah. Yeah.
that
It's a
stops
form of
them
escape
from,
as
right?
well. Yeah, so I think there
Exactly.
was a bit of a lag there, but I was just saying that
Exactly.
procrastination is a form of escape from reality as well. Sorry I cut you off, Dylan. You were saying you just continue. Yeah. So where do you stop at?
Mm. So just to summarize, I was mentioning about the association towards studying.
Okay.
So ask yourself, right, when I ask you, describe to me studying, right, if your response, right, to me is boredom, struggles, torture, right, chances
Okay.
of you suffering from distraction, procrastination, all this is really, really high.
Okay.
So what I want you to do, right, is shift the focus, right?
Okay.
Think about the outcome that you want.
Mm,
Think about the process, right? Think about, right, where that studying leads you. So
sure.
find out the purpose of you studying. And I think that's a big step of you overcoming procrastination.
Great. That's a huge point. Right. That's a huge point. I think the why is important. Then after that, you back it up with the environmental management. Just managing your environment. I mean, there's an article that I wrote on managing the environment. I can put in a link to the podcast. Y'all can go and read. I don't have time to really go into it, but it's mainly that sometimes environment can be stronger than the will as well. If you start in a very hot
Exactly.
environment, you cannot focus. It's just biology.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
your phone is constantly beside you, also a bit difficult. You got to put your phone in a cupboard or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, so I think all this, it's both the purpose and then also managing your environment. But I think one more question I'd like to ask in this area, right? If let's say they really don't like math or chemistry or whatever subject that they find difficulty in, right? Then how do you help them to find enjoyment or at least improve in that particular subject?
Okay. Right now, right, the greatest problem that all of us or many students face is that they are being labeled. that you suck in math, you suck in science,
Sure.
right? But you must understand that actually all these subjects, right, is actually just form of a skill sets or a technique, right? Mathematics is about problem solving, it's about
Sure.
logical thinking, right? Same as science, right? So if you were to associate with yourself with like, oh, I'm bad in math, I'm bad in science, naturally, right, you won't find a lot of interest in it. Because at the end of the day, right, people love growth, people love knowledge, right? Every human being, like we want to grow stronger, bigger, better.
Sure.
So, right, even if you hate physics, like, okay, if I were to be able to come to you, Kevin, and I explain to you, right, beautifully what is quantum physics, right, I can teach you in a way such that you found love and joy learning it. You definitely, more or less, you'll definitely do well. So I honestly, I believe that at the end of the day, the responsibility lies in the educators of how are we going to distill information, make our curriculum interesting for our students, right? Because at the end of the day, I have this quote that I always tell my students, right? If you find my lesson boring, right, or you use phone or you are distracted, right, it's not your fault.
It's your fault.
It's my fault.
Oh, I say that
It's
all the
my fault
time.
because it's my fault, right? Because I didn't make the content engaging for you.
Sure.
And that actually shifts the whole responsibility to the educators
Right.
to put in more effort to design the curriculum.
Right. And my mentor said this before, it's not a learning deficiency, it's a teaching deficiency as well. I think it's good that you brought up the point because I think a lot of students label themselves and they think that, okay, I'm not good in math. And it's not, okay, yes, they might not be more inclined to math compared to someone else, but I think their potential is not being realized most of the time. It's because they label themselves and they really say that they're bad in it. So, so again, if you're a student watching this or a parent looking to help a student, right? Understand that just avoid labeling, have a growth mindset. Intelligence can grow. It's not fixed. It's shown the neurons can actually connect when you practice. Wait, internet connection. Yeah, the neurons, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can, right? Okay. The neurons can actually connect when you practice. It's something that you can do well in if you put in the effort. Effort always pays off, even if you do not have the natural talent for it. And ultimately, right, understand this is a means to an end. It will lead you to the course that you want to do. You may not be necessarily doing math forever, but understand it's just a stepping stone to develop your discipline, develop your learning ability, and ultimately you're going to do things that you're passionate about anyway. Okay, so it's a means to an end, and that starts with understanding your purpose also. Okay, so I think we've addressed the lack of motivation, the lack of, and how to, draw the link between studies and where you want to go. I would say the third issue, right, that a lot of students bring up, and just feel free to agree or disagree with me on this, right, is that they don't know what to do with their life. They don't know their career path. They don't know what to do after secondary school. Even at university, they don't know what to do beyond that. So how do you begin to, I know this is linked to purpose, right, but how do you begin to help students to link their interest and purpose to the course they want to pursue eventually?
Okay. The greatest problem right now that many students, right, one of the greatest problems that many students face is they are just overwhelmed by the number of courses out there. You think about it, I was just doing coaching for the EAE, which is the admission for polytechnics, right? We just talk about the School of Business. Under the School of Business, right, there's accountancy, finance, HR, operations, right, international trade. Just under business, right, it's split into like 5 to 10 different categories.
Okay.
Yeah, how will we expect a 16-year-old to decipher, right, which course are they interested in, right? So it's very important for us, right, to help them to understand, right, okay, what's the difference between accountancy and finance? Break it down for them, right? And of course, it would be great if students start early and start, understanding the differences. But if there's no one to guide them, right, it's a very challenging process. So that is one of the big problem. And second problem, right, that second thing I always like to highlight is you don't have to think too far into like 10, 20 years, what's your aspirations? Sometimes it's really a huge, difficult questions that if you were ask me what I'm going to do 20 years down the road, right, it'll be difficult for me to answer you as well, right? So just ask yourself, in the next chapter of your life, right, beyond secondary school, what do you want to do? And more often than not, they have an answer, right? And it's okay if they eventually switch out of it because there is a learning, there is a journey, right? Eventually they can take whatever they learn and apply it to somewhere else. So I think back to the same questions, right? Like in just what do you want to study next year, right? What are you interested in? What problems do you want to solve? What are you curious about? This really shine lights
Yeah.
and to guide the student along the way.
Right. And I think it also help them to really go into a curriculum. And then one tip for you as well, right? Don't look at it as it all looks nice. You've got to really talk to seniors or look at the curriculum and understand what is going to be covered, whether that links to what your interests are. Lah. I think does that make sense, right, Dylan?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I think at that age, right, most important thing is just to ask seniors, ask around,
Yeah.
right, search the internet, and from there you can have inclination of like, okay, which path, right?
Yeah.
So and especially now, right, like information is everywhere, right? You can even drop a note to the school, right?
Yeah.
Find on LinkedIn, just find a senior, right? And I believe they will help.
Okay. So, um, so if let's say, right, I have an idea of what I want to do, right? Say maybe if let's say if going to poly, right, the next step is to apply for an interview or to submit, right? So what can students do to put them in the best position to actually
Okay,
get the
that is
course
a
going?
very important question
Yeah.
that I've been helping with for the students. So in a write up, right? Currently, what I'm seeing students, okay, how they are positioning themselves is, oh, I'm just interested in, let's say I'm interested in psychology,
Mm,
right? And because I'm a good leader, I'm in this particular CCA, right? That's
yeah.
the reason why, okay, I can value add to the school. So for the administrative like officers, right, that they are reviewing the write-up, right, you realize that interest is a very weak reason for them to accept you, for
Mm,
them to get you into the course, right? I can also say that I'm highly interested in the
mm,
environment. I'm also
sure.
interested in every
Anyone
single
can
thing.
say that. Yeah.
So what makes you stand out at the end of the day, right? What makes you stand out is actually a few things. Number one, you can start off the write-up with a problem that you want to solve.
Mm,
Okay, number two, it can be a personal statement, right, that
mm,
showcase, okay, a personal account or recount of something that happened in the past that made you want to step foot into the course.
mm,
I give you a few examples so that you can understand. So
sure.
for instance, okay, let's say I want to study cybersecurity,
Mm,
right? So if I say that, okay, witnessing, right, the rise in cyber crimes around,
mm,
okay, that hooked my interest, right, to understand, right, why are people's information that vulnerable?
mm,
And that got me interested to deep dive into the space of cybersecurity.
sure.
And then I designed a project and so on and so forth. Can you see the
Right.
starting? You already hook
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
attention of the person.
Yeah.
That's
Mm,
one positioning. Second positioning is when I was young, right? I got hacked, right?
mm,
All my friends got hacked. I saw
mm,
something right that happened in the past, and
sure.
I felt helpless because I couldn't do anything about it.
Sure.
And that got me interested, to understand more about the topic,
Mm,
right? So that is the first part.
okay.
Okay, so guys, I'm revealing all the secrets that I've been helping for the students. Okay, that is the first part. Okay, the first two liners. Okay, you need a great hook, right?
Yeah.
As to can be a personal account recount, or
Yeah.
alternatively, it can be a problem that you want to solve.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first part.
Okay.
Now let's dive in next. So having a problem that you want to solve it's good, but it's not the best. Right? What is missing? It is your involvement and your dedication to the topic.
Mm,
So what I want to see next is what have you been doing about it? So I
right.
can say that, oh, I see climate change is a big problem, right? I want to
Yeah.
step foot in and help.
Yeah.
But what have you been doing about it?
Yeah. Anyone can say that, right? So
Anyone,
what's next,
anyone
right?
can say that.
Yeah.
So what do you do about it? So that is that's the meat, right? What do you do about it,
Yeah.
right? So share with me all the evidences, okay, about the things that
Mm,
you've been doing about that particular subject. Is it a passion
mm,
project? Is it a competition, right? Do you join a networking event, right? That's where you, okay, share with me, okay, what do you do about it, knowing the
sure.
problem is around. And
Yeah.
of course, the last piece, right? Tell me, right? Granted this opportunity in the school, what would you want to do,
Mm,
right? Because I want someone, right? At the end of the day, right? Think about it, Kevin. If we are the principals or if we are the administrative officers, right? We are seeking out, right, individuals
mm,
that at the end of the day, right? Okay, we want these people to be the limelight of our school.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
want someone that's really super passionate. They spend time in competitions. They
Sure.
spend time learning beyond a subject, right? That's the kind of student I want. And that's why I always emphasize to them. And with that, you can piece a beautiful
But that's
write-up.
that's amazing. That is really good. It's a three-step approach, three framework. The last one I wanted to bring up, but you already brought it up. That no one cares about you. I think we need to bring this across in any interview, right? The most common mistake is that people think that, okay, accept me because I want this or I want that or I'm interested in this. But no one cares. They only care about how it helps them, how it helps them to what how your skills is going to help the particular person or particular organization. So that's where the last part actually comes in, where you talk about service, you talk about how your work can potentially add value to the climate over there and what you intend to contribute.
Exactly.
Okay? And this tip is not just for applications this time around, right? It's for anything, any form of persuasion, negotiation. You need to think about the other party and not just about your own needs. So wow, that really is a very good
Exactly.
summary and advice for people who are taking the course, right? Just one small thing over there, right, that I want to also bring up before we head into the last segment is that what if let's say people don't have that authentically they cannot say that they are passionate or they are have a passion in this area, right? How will you then advise them? Or you feel that people if you
Okay, so
or
there's
if you feel that people dig
mm,
deeper, right, they will manage to find something.
I think at the end of the day, right? Okay, I can confidently say that
Mm,
every student, right, the fact that you're applying for this course, right, there is
sure.
something about it, right? You that if
Sweet.
you tell, yeah,
Yeah,
if you tell me that there's no strong reason, right, then perhaps you're in the wrong
of
course.
course, yeah.
Perhaps you're
Mm,
applying for the wrong course, right?
mm,
So that there is a reason behind why they are inclined towards applying for business, psychology, or the
yeah,
engineering. There is a reason, and I really want to help them, right, to figure out
yeah,
the reason.
yeah. So I think this again for listeners, you have to realize that everybody has an interest. And I agree with you on this. I was going to say that, but I wanted to hear it from you so that I can confirm what I'm going to say. But I do believe, yeah, everybody, if you dig deeper, right, you will have, it may not be as strong as the next guy, but you don't need to compare with that person. It's okay. You
Exactly.
may not have the same passion or purpose as both of us. You don't need to compare with us. It's a journey. I think one thing I want to let students know, right, is that passion and purpose are two quite different things. It
Mm,
may start from passion, right? They're interlinked, but passion usually starts from an interest that's self-oriented. You enjoy doing this, you get energized when you're doing this. Purpose only comes along later when like you
mm,
realize there's a problem you want to solve, people you want to help, for humanity, for my family, for people who are depressed. That will come along the way when you explore and notice certain things. So don't worry,
exactly.
purpose will come along the way, and that is purpose is what sustains people. But it starts with a passion, and you just need to. It's a journey lah. So don't force it. Okay.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Okay. I think we're coming towards the end of the podcast already. I do have to ask you one or two last questions lah. Just as an inspiration to students. I ask this question to every single guest, even though it's a little bit out of line from what we
Okay.
discussed today. But what does resilience mean to you?
Resilience. I think to me, resilience is about, right, even though you are facing a lot of struggles, pain, right, you will continue to strike forward because, right, you know that these are just challenges, right? You know where you are heading.
Mm,
And the problem with many of us face is that we don't know where we are heading. And that's the reason why, right, whenever we face any setbacks or challenges, we will crumble.
mm,
And having
okay.
the resilience just means that, yeah, right, no matter what happens to you, you know where you're heading, right? You will just continue to move forward.
Okay, I love it. And to round off this podcast, right, do you have any last message that you want to share with students, maybe 13 to 18 years old?
Exactly. I do. So for all students out there, right, spend some time, right, digging out, finding out the reason of what you're studying for, right? If that's a too big of a question, right, just ask yourself, what are you interested in,
Mm,
right? What do you spend time usually on? There is something deep down in your heart, right? There's something that truly ignites, right, your energy, ignites, right, the fire in you. So
mm.
you have to find it. And yeah, many of us are in this route before, whereby we were clueless about what we truly love and enjoy. So it's all about experimentation, it's all about exploration. And from there, I truly believe that you will find something that you truly love.
Well, it's a fantastic end to this podcast. Education is not just filling a vessel, it's igniting a spark. And we hope that this podcast has at least ignited some spark in you to go out there and tackle the world. Okay, and to just just be resilient and just kill it. Okay. So with that, we've come to the end of this podcast. You can find Dylan on Instagram. I will link you up in the description. Please go and check out his work. I do believe you have a Telegram channel as well.
Yeah, I do.
I haven't joined, I say. I will also link them up to my Telegram channel, please. Okay, maximum value for all of you. All right. So with that, we've come to the end. Stay healthy, stay resilient. Till next time. Bye.
Bye bye.